Hello everyone, and welcome to IS 300 and today's discussion of Chapter 4, Introduction to Business Processes and Business Process Reengineering. Today we'll talk about the purpose of business processes, why are they important, we will define business processes, and finally we will talk about how business processes are actually implemented in Infor Cloud Suite. Business processes are repeatable, they're systematic, they define business activities. Usually they are invoked by a transaction or some sort of customer interaction. Whenever we purchase goods and services, there is a business process behind the scenes that will invoke a transaction stored in a database. Then that transaction can be analyzed, reported, it can be tracked, it can be changed, it can be read. The four things that we talked about last week: it can be selected, it can be inserted, it can be updated, and it can be deleted. Successful organizations must have well-formed business processes to complete the work necessary to achieve their organizational goals. Usually they have profitability goals in mind, and business processes are essential to sustained profitability. Here is the official definition of a business process: a set of tasks that produce desired outcomes, initiated usually by customer interaction. They are cross-functional, meaning that one department will pass on a portion of the business process to the next department. And usually they are triggered by some sort of event that invokes a transaction, a common activity, such as placing a customer order, for example. Then, when you implement an ERP system, there are already business processes built into the system. Those business processes define the ought to be way of doing business. So if an organization implements an ERP system such as Infor Cloud Suite, then it is important to know what their current business processes are, their as-is business processes. And in some cases, if the as-is business processes do not meet or match the ought-to-be business processes, then there is a redesign of the business processes so that they are consistent with the built-in processes that are already bundled with the ERP system. This is referred to as business process reengineering. It is the analysis and redesign of workflows within and between an enterprise, optimizing end-to-end processes and automating those processes that are not value added. So how does Infor Cloud Suite, or CSI, do their business processes? Well, they have many years of expertise that is bundled into their consulting services and their development team who have jointly defined the business processes. They have built their applications based on industry standards and best practices using decades of industry and business application experience. The business processes are usually a set of role-based activities, which are basically you define who is doing the business process, who is conducting the action that is being managed by the business process. It can be extended or adjusted to meet specific needs and or market differentiators. Here are some of the business processes that we will actually complete in this class. We'll start with the quote-to-cash business process. There are several sub-processes within quote-to-cash. We know that a quote is simply getting an estimate. An estimate is another word for a quote. Sometimes a customer will want to get the estimate before they make a purchase, maybe compare prices and do some comparison shopping. Maybe a vendor will submit a bid and provide a quote in the bid, and so the winning bid then will ultimately turn into a purchase order. The purchase order will turn into a requirement for shipping goods from point A to point B. Then there will be invoice and the collecting of payments. All of those functions are the sub-processes within quote to cash. We will actually conduct a quote to cash process when we get to the hands-on exercises. We also have some sales order, shipping, invoicing that has to happen. Invoicing ultimately turns to a customer payment. The customer payment then actually becomes part of the revenue stream. Our next business process is procure to pay. Procurement is simply the company purchasing products or services through a vendor that has already been approved by the company. And so there will only be certain companies, certain vendors, if you will, that will be involved in the procurement process. But that procure to pay process includes similar things to the quote to cash. It requires the receiving of items, paying the vendor, returning the items if necessary, things like that. There are several sub-processes within procure to pay. You have to create a requisition, generate a RFQ, a request for quote, select a vendor, approve the requisition, convert the requisition to a purchase order, and so on. Then you have some demand to job build order processes. Taking the demand from different sources, calculating the projected dates for the incremental planning, and analyzing the demand for the project planning. Those are some of the functions included in demand to build job orders. There will also be the recording of demand from various avenues, which includes forecasting, projecting, looking at the sales orders, trying to identify for incremental planning purposes how many raw materials or inventory you will need over a period of time. Planning very important, and so demand to plan can make the difference in having enough inventory, not having enough inventory, and being able to respond to changes in the marketplace fairly quickly. Then you also have plan to schedule, schedule to build. All of those are sub-processes within demand to build job orders. Of course, with any ERP system, you will have a series of financial planning reports, and that is the case with Infor Cloud Suite. We have several financial reports that can be generated. We have general ledger processing, accounts receivable, accounts payable, all of those processing invoices, receiving payments, reconciling the revenue with the bank statements, processing the invoices, paying the vendors, processing checks, and so on. We also look at fixed assets, depreciation, transfer and disposal of fixed assets, and so on. And then we have financial reporting and closing, all activities for the month-end or year-end closing processes. Those are some of the more important business processes that we will be conducting in this class using Infor CSI. So, in review, business processes are usually invoked by the customer interaction, true or false. Most of the time, there is some sort of an interaction that has occurred that will launch the business process, so that is in fact true. Business processes are they cross-functional? Yes, they typically are. Are they interdependent? There is definitely a dependency on one phase in the business process and the next, and they are systematic. They are cross-functional, interdependent, and systematic. The answer is D, all of the above. Which end-to-end processes include all sales activities? Is it procure to pay? Is it demand to bill? Is it quote to cash? Or is it financial plan to report? Actually, quote to cash includes all sales activities end to end. So the answer is C, quote to cash. Which business processes involve calculating the project dates, incremental planning, and analyzing? Planning being the key word. Is it procure to pay? No. Is it demand to build? Yes, it is. It's not quote to cash and it's not financial plan to report. The answer is B, demand to build. Which business processes includes the activities associated with buying, receiving, paying vendors, returning items for credit? Vendor is the key word in this one. Procure to pay is the correct answer. A, procure to pay. That has been the discussion of Chapter 4, Business Processes and Business Process Reengineering.